So when I think of identifying boundary conflicts within ourselves, well, let's start with remembering what's a boundary. A boundary is a property line. And what that does is it helps you take ownership and control of yourself, not other people, but self-control. So if I want to have self-control, why would that, just saying no to something, to maybe somebody mistreating me or somebody wanting something from me that it's not what I want to do or it's not what I want to give, and saying no to that, why in the world would that put me into an internal conflict? Well, here's why. Because sometimes we haven't integrated inside of ourselves that we can have both love for a person and we can have limits. See, we think sometimes maybe our mind is set up to where it says, well, if I love somebody, I'll do whatever they want. Well, what's going to happen? Then when they're asking something or they're even doing something hurtful, for me to say no to that, that might mean in my head, well, saying no means I don't love you. And you've even heard people say this. You say, no, I don't want to do that. And say, oh, so I guess you don't care about me. And see, they put those two together, but as being the same and not coexisting together. So conflict has to do when things are warring inside of ourselves. And that's what a boundary conflict is. See, a boundary is in the good sense of, we use the word, aggression or assertiveness. It means energy. It means something that's going to move towards, some action that moves towards some good goal. So if we have aggressive conflicts, in other words, I can't use my strength to say no without it putting me in conflict inside, then we have internal boundary conflicts. Now, to identify these, I would just, you can identify a lot of these by just looking at a few areas. One of them has to do with the difference in love and limits. Are those two in conflict in your mind? Do you really think that having limits on how much you can give to someone, or how much you choose to give to someone, or how much you choose to allow someone to do to you, do you think really having limits on that means that you don't love them? No. But you might have been taught that. You might have been parented like that. Here's what I used to tell people a long time ago. Draw a line across a piece of paper. It's a continuous line with an arrow that goes into infinity, and we're to call that line love. Now, underneath that line, draw a dotted line. And the dotted line is what you're going to do for them. Okay? I love you continuously. Yes, I'll do this. No, I won't do that. Yeah, I'll do that. No, I can't agree to that. See, in the spaces between the yeses, there's a space where no comes, but look above it. The love hasn't disappeared. I still love my kids if I say, no, that's not okay, or no, you can't go do that. But when they're really young, they're going to scream, fire, foul, that's not good, you don't love me. Well, yes, I do, and that's got to be integrated in their heads. So love and limits may be in conflict with you. Secondly, you might have been taught that having boundaries is actually hurtful to someone. Now think about that. When you say no to somebody, it might hurt a little bit, like they didn't get what they wanted and they go, oh, bummer, I wish you could have done that. And that's normal, that's sad. But sometimes you might have been trained where if you say no to them, they're not sad, they're mad, and they make you bad, and they cry foul as if you've ruined their lives. And so now you got this conflict inside. Oh my gosh, if I have boundaries, that means I hurt someone. Not only do I not love them, it's worse than that. I'm actually injuring them by saying no. Well, we got to get those integrated. A third conflict you see a lot is the fear of loss. So if I say no to somebody, they're going to abandon me. A lot of times people get trained because when they did have boundaries, somebody would withdraw love from them. It registers in their head that if I have boundaries, I'm going to lose love. But good relationships aren't like that. Good relationships learn to respect each other's no. And when we say no, we're not going to lose love. Somebody's going to still be committed to us. In fact, what we see is the people without boundaries, the ones that don't ever say no, they get actually respected less in the relationship, and they're the ones that get abandoned the most. So we've got also the fear of retaliation. Sometimes people are afraid this powerful figure is going to hurt me. Now, in some instances, that might be true, but that doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. That means you take protective steps. You go to a shelter, and that's your way of saying no, because there should be some fear involved, because you should be afraid because this person might actually hurt you. But a lot of times that gets in our head just as a conflict. So we've got fear of not being loving. We've got fear of hurting someone. We got fear of depriving somebody. We got fear of making somebody feel bad. And also we have guilt conflicts inside that we feel like, well, it's selfish, or you're being selfish. It's not selfish to say no. It's selfish to never say yes. If our whole life is self-centered just to please me, that's selfishness. But to say yes to some things and no to some things, so that's not selfish. So identify these conflicts. What are you afraid of? Loss of love, retaliation, guilt, shame, being internally judged, losing love on the outside. Find the fear, then you'll find the conflict, and then you have some rewiring to do.